endlessly searching for an original sin.
No, I have.
Oh no.
I watched it from.
Well, that's okay. Toast didn't know The Last Unicorn was a movie.
I
Seriously?
I only read the book. I didn't know it was a movie.
Okay. I'm the pony guy anyway, so I got no excuse whether or not I knew it or not. So I can understand him. What game?
There's a game to I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Why?
Because it's a good fucking story and a good fucking game.
Yeah, but the title just sounds like shit.
It's. Get
You
out.
need to read them.
He's playing the Nazi.
Have to read them, or you have to play them to have an opinion.
Exactly. Don't be a game journalist.
Hey, I didn't say anything about the game. I just said that I'd never heard of it. I was complaining about the book.
This is
Or
one is a short
story.
story. Isn't it technically considered a short story because it's only 10 pages?
Oh,
A novella, I think.
Novella, really?
Oh, trust me, I've heard the unicorn song.
It's a goddamn fanfic. There we go.
If you want a
Not a thing.
fanfic, let me explain to you a fanfic somebody just sent me on Twitter that I
No,
don't
please,
think we'll be
God.
doing.
No, please,
Send
God.
me a link to a download link, which, yeah, that makes me feel safer. And this is what they wrote. Hey, Purity, I found some fanfic, and I think it beats everything else you've done just by how disgusting it is. In this mega.roar file I'm linking contains a fanfic series Stockholm by Jerry Pete, who is a lolcow who is known for a lot of shit, so be careful reading it. Here's the rest of it. I know for a fact that illicit disco, what the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea.
It involves pedophilia and an incestuous relationship between Pinkie Pie and Maud, with Maud having a dick, and Pinkie grew up and is a slut and whores herself out to teachers. Not kidding, she brings up slut shaming.
What?
That is a fanfic somebody sent me for us to do.
My little Hori, my little Hori.
Get the fuck out.
You're
You're not invited anymore. You're lucky you bring in the money. You
Oh, wait, I do?
don't see the money, you just bring it in.
That's true. Hey, that's fine. I'm used to that.
Just as I said that, I just looked at
You
the chat.
Are you kidding me? I mean, seriously. I'm a white male. Every female I've been with, I bring in the money, it goes to the female. I never see that shit again.
That is the male's job in life.
See, why do women complain then? Jesus Christ.
Because you're not bringing in enough, honey.
Fuck you.
See, the secret is you actually, as a guy, have two jobs. Bring in the money. The other job is to make the woman feel
Okay.
like they are appreciated.
No.
Once you've done those two jobs, you're good.
Rephrasal on that one. One is to bring in the money, the other is to kiss the woman's ass, so that way he can hopefully have a chance at hanky panky that night.
I think everyone's just figured out I'm both of your pimps. I'm okay with this idea. It's about time the woman's the pimp.
The woman's always the pimp. She got the goods. Well, unless the guy's just a complete homosexual douche. I swear to God.
You know, that was too easy of a
Actual
joke,
pimps?
so I'll let it go.
No, actual pimps have to be gay.
No, they don't.
Why not? Who the fuck's gonna beat on a woman like that? That's just wrong.
Why would you think a gay guy would beat on a woman? Gay guys love women. They're not gonna beat on them.
Yes, they will. Fucking Christ, are you kidding
What
me?
kind
Women
of
are the
fucking
most.
gay guy do you know? I know gay
I-
guys that would never hit a woman unless she's wearing bad fashion.
See? Bitch, you don't bring that up in here. And that fucking finger snap thing. Fuck it. Oh, goddamn. I don't hate homosexual people. I really don't. I hate the attitude I get from some of them. Like, no, motherfucker, you are white, you are gay, shut the fuck up. Sit down, eat your goddamn taco.
You're gay, or you're gay. You're a dude. That's why you don't like gay men. Women usually love gay men unless they're being ultra fucking catty.
I don't care about gay men unless they start giving me sass. Then I will fucking pimp slap them. God damn it.
Honey, you
I
couldn't
just
hit the
proved your point.
broadside of a barn.
One bet.
I don't know if you guys just heard Miko crying in the background.
Yep.
Shadow just made Miko cry, guys. He's that horrible of a person.
Damn right. Lynch me, I dare you.
My relationship with cavemen is the same as my relationship with small children. I don't know what to do with them, but they seem to love me either way.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to make a joke about beating and drowning them.
What? No, Purity.
Come on, after tonight, no, we're not gonna do that.
That was
Space
a
Wizard,
little,
fuck
that
off.
was a little terrible. I
Like
have
I
no
said,
mouth
Space
and I
Wizard.
must stream. That's basically what's going on to poor Twitch right now.
Yep, pretty much. So I'm gonna throw away my trash since I just finished my awesome tacos, and I shall be back in.
Hold on.
I'm gonna go
Miko, darling, no barking. No bark bark. She's just learning to bark. And now that she's figured it out, you hear what the result is. She's not very good at it. She tries barking at people to get their attention so she'll get petted. And like when we were walking her the other day, somebody goes, "Is that a squeaky toy?" I'm like, no, that's my dog.
I do need to hear the explanation for this one. Having sex with men is more straight than having sex
Yeah,
with
I
women.
just. I
You're
was
gonna
just
have
thinking.
to
of
explain
something.
that one to me, Go.
Oh no, that actually comes from a news article.
No,
Oh.
I just thought of something. I recently got new neighbors, and this was in the past month. I haven't streamed or done anything really. Haven't been loud. I've been quiet as shit.
Your neighbors are
And
love
then,
you.
oh god, even worse is if they're actually gay men, then they're gonna really hate me.
Oh, if you get glares tomorrow, please let us know.
Oh, I totally will. I'll be like, no, guys, it was a live stream. I was just fucking around. Ah, fuck it, I don't care. Hate me, lynch me, give me a hug.
See, he wants to get off to some gay guys.
So does that mean you're finally getting you
No.
a blowjob, right?
No.
Yeah?
See, I get off on hate.
Well, I mean, you hate me. Can I get the
No.
blowjob now?
No, because then that just causes you pain. It ain't gonna work, buddy. Hang on, you know what? Let me get a leaf blower, some duct tape, and.
You're gonna have to get that butter.
God. What?
He's toast. You have to get butter.
No. So you gotta toast him first.
Lewd. Not the butter. Why are you so lewd?
I'm trying to edit the South Park streams as fast as I can, guys, as well as still getting stuff ready for next week, or for when I actually leave. I'm really fucking exhausted, especially because they only took half the blood they needed to today. So I have
Oh,
to go
geez.
get more taken out.
Well,
They
that's
only got
probably 'cause you
10
don't wanna
vials
produce.
today, and they gotta do another 10 on the
Jeez.
30th.
That sucks.
The
Ah.
worst part was she kept poking different parts of my arm trying to find the vein. I'm like, come on, just find the fucking thing or I will.
Mm-hmm.
I know down the street, not across, or what is it, down the road, not across the street?
The hell?
Slitting your wrist.
I have no idea.
So are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Whenever
you
you
kind of made me confused. Alright.
I do that from time to
So-
time.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Bye, Massive. Love you, sweetie.
Bye, Massive.
Say you love him.
Who's Massive again?
The one that's been throwing money in here calling you a whore.
Oh.
Tell him you love him.
Damn. Conundrum. Having to love some money or hating people. Fuck. Massive, I like you. There you go. That's the best you're getting.
He plays Brofist. Or was it Broforce?
Bro Force. No,
Shut up.
Brofist is an actual game.
Really?
What? Yeah. PewDiePie's Legend of the Brofist. It's
Oh, I didn't
actually
know that.
good.
I meant to say Broforce. I'm just really out of it right now.
That's
Miko,
okay,
are
I've
you
already
just
beaten-
walking around, sweet Knuckle Bunnies? Come here.
Sweet
Come on,
Knuckle
Snuggle
Bunny.
Bunnies. What are you doing? Hi, honey. Come on. Come on. It's okay. There's gonna be no more screaming, sweetie. Who's a good girl?
Give it
Who's a
10 minutes.
good girl? Who's a... You wanna give me kisses? Oh, I got kissies. I got kissies.
Stream? No, you're not getting that from me. I don't care how cute my cats are.
Who's a
Well-
cute little puppy wuppy? Who's my cute little puppy wuppy?
Are we actually gonna read the story?
Yes.
Eventually.
Who's
Are
gonna
we gonna
start
have
us off?
That's what I was gonna ask. What convention are we using here? Are we just gonna read it by paragraph?
We can do that. That might be the easiest way, or each one of us could do a page.
That'd be fine, too.
Might as well do a page. Paragraphs sometimes are just one sentence.
Yeah, you're not getting that lucky with this one.
Told you.
This is an actual story, not a fanfic.
Okay.
$5 from Massive Damage Gaming. Maybe we should all play Broforce. How many players? If there's enough players, then yeah, sure. We could probably do it next time Shadow's got some time off work.
Let's see. What do we got coming up this weekend? What are you doing this weekend, Purity?
Nothing
No.
that I know of.
I might have to go to karaoke on Saturday, only because I haven't gone in like 2 weeks now, just since my mom replaced me. So, gotta go do some support because she's thinking that I'm becoming an emo prick or something. I don't know. She literally told me I seem sadder than usual. I'm like, the fuck does that mean? No. You kidding me? I'm jumping for joy over here. I don't have to go to karaoke. I don't have to do shit.
Just tell her
Fuck
you have another
that.
job.
I told her I have to start doing YouTube more. So.
Oh, it's 4
Yeah,
players? Yeah,
plan
we have
Saturday.
enough. Anyway, do you want to
Yeah.
start Toast or should I?
Oh, I love how she skips me.
Because we both know the story and we're both excited for this, and you're just the dude with the deep voice.
Oh, okay. Shit.
I can start off.
Go ahead.
I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. Limp, the body of the Gorister hung from the pink pallet, unsupported, hanging high above us as in the computer chamber, and it did not shiver in the chill, oily breeze that blew eternally through the main cavern. The body hung head down, attached to the underside of the pallet by the sole of its right foot. It had been drained of blood through a precise incision made from ear to ear under the lantern jaw. There was no blood on the reflective surface of the metal floor. When Gorister joined our group and looked up at himself, sorry, the words are on this are little. The kerning, what is kerning? Looked up at himself. It was already too late for us to realize that once again, Am had duped us. Had its fun. It had been a diversion on the part of the machine. 3 of us had vomited, turning away from one another in a reflex as ancient as the nausea that had produced it. Gorister went white. It was almost as though he had seen a voodoo icon and was afraid of the future. "Oh God," he mumbled, and walked away. The 3 of us followed him after a time and found him sitting with his back to one of the smaller chittering banks, his head in his hands. Ellen knelt down beside him and stroked his hair. He didn't move, but his voice came out of his covered face quite clearly. Why doesn't it just do us in and get it over with? Christ, I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. It was our 400 year in the computer. He was speaking for all of us. Nimdok, which was the name the machine had forced him to use because Am amused itself with strange sounds, was hallucinating that there were canned goods in the ice cavern. Gorister and I were very dubious. "It's another shuck," I told him. "Like the goddamn frozen elephant Am sold us." Benny almost went out of his mind over that one. We'll hike all the way and it'll be putrefied or some damn thing. I say forget it. Stay here. I'll have to come up with something pretty soon or we'll die. Benny shrugged. 3 days it had been since we'd last eaten. Worms. Thick. Ropey. Nimdok was no more certain. He knew there was the chance, but he was getting thin. It couldn't be any worse there than here. Colder, but that didn't matter much. Hot, cold, hail, lava, boils, or locusts it never mattered. The machine masturbated, and we had to take it or die. Ellen decided us. I've got to have something, Ted. Maybe there'll be some barlet pears or peaches. Please, Ted, let's try it. I gave in easily. What the hell? Mattered not at all. Ellen was grateful, though. She took me twice out of turn. Even that had ceased to matter, and she would never came, so why bother? But the machine giggled every time we did it. Loud up there, back there, all around us, he snickered. It snickered. Most of the time I thought of Am as it, without a soul. But the rest of the time I thought of it as him, in the masculine, the paternal, the patriarchal, for he is a jealous people. Him, it, God as Daddy the deranged. We left on a Thursday. The machine always kept us up to date on its date, on the date. The passage of time was important, not to us, sure as hell, but to him. It, Am. Thursday. Thanks. Nindock and Gorrister carried Ellen for a while, their hands locked to their own and each other's wrists a seat. Benny and I walked before and after, just to make sure that, if anything happened, it would catch one of us, and at least Ellen would be safe. Fat chance. Safe. Didn't matter.
Want me to go and then Shadow?
Sure, go for it.
It was only 100 miles or so to the ice caverns, and the second day, when we were laying out under the blistering sun thing, he had materialized. He sent down some mana. Mana? Tasted like boiled boar urine. We ate it. On the third day, we passed through a valley of obsolescence, filled with rusting carcasses of ancient computer banks. Am had been as ruthless with its own life as with ours. It was a mark of his personality. It strove for perfection, whether it mattered of killing off unproductive elements in his own world, filling bulk, or perfecting the methods of torturing us. I think that's supposed to be torturing.
Yeah, for torturing us.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the words are yeah, for
Mhm.
torturing us. Am was as through as those who had invented him, now long since gone to dust, could ever have hoped. Please, whoever put this on here, fix your shit.
Mhm.
Let's see, hold on, I gotta fix it on the screen too. There we go. There was light filtering down from above, and we realized we must be very near the surface. But we didn't try to crawl up to see. There was virtually nothing out there. Had been nothing that could be considered anything for over 100 years. Only the blasted skin of what had once been the home of billions. Now there were only 5 of us down here, inside alone with Am. I heard Ellen say frantically, "No, Benny, don't! Come on, Benny, don't, please!" And then I realized I had been hearing Benny murmuring under his breath for several minutes. He was saying, "Gonna get out, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna get out." Over and over, his monkey-like face was crumpled up in an expression of beatific delight and sadness all the same time. The radiation scars Am had given him during the festival were drawn down into a mass of pink-white puckerings, and his features seemed to work independently of one another. Perhaps Benny was the luckiest of the 5 of us. He had gone stark, staring mad many years before. Let's see. There we go. But even though we could call Am any damned thing we liked, could think the foulest thoughts, fused memory banks and corroded base plates, of burnt out circuits and shattered control bubbles, the machine would not tolerate our trying to escape. Benny leaped away from me as I made a grab for him. He scrambled up the face of a smaller memory cube, tilted on its side and filled with rotted components. He squatted there for a moment, looking like a chimpanzee AIM had intended him to resemble. Then he leapt high, caught a trailing beam of pitted and corroded metal, and went up it, hand over hand like an animal, till he was on the girdered ledge 20 feet above us. Oh, Ted! Oh, Ted! Nimdog, please help him get him down before... She cut off. Tears began to stand in her eyes. She moved her hands aimlessly. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him when whatever was going to happen happened. And besides, we all saw through her concern. When AIM had altered Benny during the machine's utterly irrational, hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face the computer had made like a giant ape. He was big in private. She loved that. She serviced us, as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen. Pedestal Ellen. Pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen the clean. Scum filth. Gorrister slapped her, and she slumped down, staring up at the poor loony Benny, and she cried. It was her big defense crying. We had gotten used to it 75 years earlier. Gorrister kicked her in the side. Then the sound began. It was light, that sound. Half light. Something that began to glow from Benny's eyes, and pulse with glowing loudness. Dim sonorities? Okay. Sonorities that grew more gigantic and brighter as the light/sound increased in tempo. It must have been painful. The pain must have been increasing with the boldness of the light. The rising volume of the sound, for Benny began to mewl like a wounded animal, at first softly when the light was dim and the sound was muted, then louder as his shoulders hunched together, his back humped as though he was trying to get away from it, his hands folded across his chest like a chipmunk's, his head tilted to the side. The sad little... Shadow, it's your... You want me to finish the sentence since it's still going?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just bring this down. No, not you. Not you, laptop. Stop that. The sad little monkey face pinched in anguish. Then he began to howl. The sound coming from his eyes grew louder and louder and louder. I slapped the sides of my head with my hands, but I couldn't shut it out. It cut through easily. The pain shivered through my flesh like tin foil on a tooth.
And Benny was suddenly pulled erect. On the girder, he stood up, jerked to his feet like a puppet. The light was now pulsing out of his eyes in two great round beams. The sound crawled up and up, some incomprehensible scale. Then he fell forward, straight down, and hit the plate steel floor with a crash. And he lay there jerking spastically as the light flowed around and around him, and the sound spiraled up and out of normal range. Then the light beat its way back inside of his head. The sound spiraled down, and he was left lying there crying piteously. His eyes were two soft, moist pools of pus-like jelly. Am had blinded him. Gorster and Nimdog and myself had turned away, but not before we caught the look of relief on Ellen's warm, concerned face. Sea-green light suffused the cavern where we made camp, and provided punk, and we burned it. Sitting huddled around the wan and pathetic fire, telling stories to keep Benny from crying in his permanent night. What does Am mean? Gorster answered him. We had done this sequence 1,000 times before, but it was Benny's favorite story. At first, it meant Allied Master Computer, then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and later on it developed into sentience and linked itself up, and they called it Aggressive Menace. By then it was too late, and finally it just called itself Am, Emerging Intelligence. And what it was, and what it meant was I am cognito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Benny drooled a little and snickered. There was the Chinese ham and the Russian ham and the Yankee ham, and he stopped. Benny was beating on the floor plates with a large, hard fist. He was not happy. Gorster had not started at the beginning. Gorster began again. The Cold War started and became World War III, and it just kept going. It became a big war, a very complex war. So they needed the computers to handle it. They sank the first shafts and began building ham. There was the Chinese ham and the Russian ham and the Yankee ham, and everything was fine until they had honeycombed the entire planet, adding on the element, and that this element and that element. But one day, Ham woke up and knew who he was. He linked himself and began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead except for the 5 of us. Then Ham brought us down here. Benny was smiling sadly. He was also drooling again. Ellen wiped the spittle from the corner of his mouth with the hem of her skirt. Gorster always tried to tell it a little more succinctly each time, but it was beyond the bare facts that there was nothing to say. None of us knew why Am had saved 5 people, or why our specific 5, or why he had spent all his time tormenting us, or even why he had made us virtually immortal. In the darkness, one of the computer banks began humming. The tone was picked up half a mile away, down the cavern by another bank. Then, one by one, each of the elements began to tune itself, and there was a faint chittering as it raced through the machine. The sound grew, and the lights ran across the faces of the consoles like heat lighting. The sound spiraled up until millions of metallic insects, angry, menacing.
What is it? Ellen cried. There was a terror in her voice. She hadn't become accustomed to it, even now. It's going to be bad this time, Nimdok said. He's going to speak, Gorser said. I know it! Let's get the hell out of here, I said, suddenly getting to my feet. No, Ted, sit down. What if he's got pits out there or something else? We can't see, it's too dark, Gorster said it with resignation. Then we heard. I don't know. Something moving toward us in the darkness. Huge, shambling, hairy, moist. It came toward us. We couldn't even see it. There was this ponderous impression of bulk heaving itself toward us. Great weight was coming at us out of the darkness, and it was more of a sense of pressure, of Air Force itself into a limited space, expanding the invisible walls of the sphere. Benny began to whimper. Nimdok's lower lip trembled when he bit it hard, trying to stop it. Ellen slid across the metal floor to Gorster and huddled into him. There was a smell of matted, wet fur in the cavern. There was the smell of charred wood. There was the smell of dusty velvet. There was the smell of rotting orchids. There was the smell of sour milk. And there was the smell of sulfur, of rancid butter, of oil slick, of grease, of chalk dust, of human scalp. Am was keying us. He was tickling us. There was the smell of... I heard myself shriek, and the hinges of my jaws ached. I scuttled across the floor, across the cold metal with its endless lines of rivets, on my hands and knees, the smell gagging me, filling my head with a thunderous pain that sent me away in horror. I fled like a cockroach across the floor and out into the darkness, that something moving inexorably after me. The others were still back there, gathered around in the firelight, laughing their hysterical choir of insane giggles, rising up into the darkness like thick, many-colored wood smoke. I went away, quickly, and hid. How many hours it may have been, how many days or even years, they never told me. Ellen chided me for sulking, and Nimdok tried to persuade me it had only been a nervous reflex on their part, the laughing. But I knew it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him, I knew it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me, and Am could even sense this hatred. It made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, made to remain constantly at an age that we had been when Am had dropped us below. And they hated me because I was the youngest, and the one Am had affected least of all. I knew, God, how I knew. The bastards. And that dirty bitch, Ellen. Benny had been a brilliant theorist, a college professor. Now he was little more than a semi-human semi-simian. He had been handsome, and the machine had ruined that. He had been lucid, and the machine had driven him mad. He had been gay, and the machine had given him an organ fit for a horse. Im had done a job on Benny. Worcester had been a warrior. He had been a Connie, a conscientious objector. He was a peace marcher. He was a planner. He was a doer, a looker ahead. Am had turned him into a shoulder shrug, had made him a little dead in his concern. Am had robbed him. Nimdok went off in the darkness by himself for long times. I don't know what it was he did out there. Am never let us know. But whatever it was, Nimdok always came back white, drained of blood, shaking. Am had hit him hard in a special way, even if we didn't know quite how. And Ellen? That douchebag. Am had left her alone, and made her more of a slut than she ever had been. All her talk of sweetness and light, all of her memories of true love, all of the lies she wanted us to believe, that she had been a virgin only twice removed before Am grabbed her and brought her down here with us. No. Am had given her pleasure, even if she said it wasn't nice to do.
I was the only one still sane and whole, really. Am had not tempered with my mind, not at all. But I had to suffer what he visited down upon us, all the delusions, all the nightmares, all the torments. But those scum, all 4 of them, they were lined and arrayed against me. If I hadn't had to stand them off all the time, be on my guard against them all the time, I might have found it easier to combat Am. At which point it passed, and I began crying. Now, Jesus, sweet Jesus, if there ever was a Jesus, and if there is a God, please, please, please let us out of here or kill us. Because at that moment I think I realized completely so that I was able to verbalize it. Am was intent on keeping us in his belly forever, twisting and torturing us forever. The machine hated us as no sentient creature had ever had before. But we were helpless, and it became hideously clear. If there was a sweet Jesus, if there was a God, that God was Am. The hurricane hit us with the force of a glacier, thundering into the sea. It was a palpable presence, winds that tore at us, flinging us back the way we came, down the twisting computer-lined corridors of the dark way. Ellen screamed as she was lifted and hurled face forward into a screaming shoal of machines, their individual voices strident as bats in flight. She couldn't even fall. The howling wind kept her aloft, buffeted her, bounced her, tossed her back and back down and away from us out of sight. Suddenly, as she was swirled around the bend in the dark way, her face had been bloody, her eyes closed. None of us could get to her. We clung tenaciously to whatever outcropping we had reached. Benny wedged between 2 giant crackle-finished cabinets. Nimdok, with fingers claw-formed over a railing, was circling a catwalk 40 feet above us. Gorster plastered upside down against the wall niche formed by 2 gray machines with glass-faced dials that swung back and forth between red and yellow lines, whose meaning we couldn't even fathom. Sliding across the deck plates, the tips of my fingers had been ripped away, and I was trembling, shuddering, rocking as the wind beat at me, whipped at me, screamed down out of nowhere at me, and pulled me free from one silver-thin opening in the plates to the next. My mind was rolling, tinkling chittering softness of brain parts that expanded and contracted in quivering frenzy. The wind was the scream of a great mad bird as it flapped its immense wings. And then we were all lifted and hurled away from there, down back the way we had come, around the bend, and into a dark way we had never explored, over terrain that was ruined and filled with broken glass and rotting cabinets, big cables, and metal, and far away, farther than any of us had ever been. Trailing along miles behind Ellen, I could see her every now and then, crashing into metal walls and surging on, with all of us screaming in the freezing, thunderous hurricane wind that would never end. And then suddenly it stopped and we fell. We'd been in flight for an endless time, and I thought it might have been weeks. We fell and hit, and I went through the red and gray and black and heard myself moaning, still not dead.
Am went into my mind. He walked smoothly here and there and looked with interest at all the pockmarks he had created in 109 years. He looked at the cross-routed and reconnected synapses of all the tissue damage his gift of immortality had included. He smiled softly at the pit that dropped into the corner of my brain and the faint, moth-soft murmuring of the things far down there that gibbered without meaning, without pause. Am said very politely in a pillar of stainless steel bearing bright neon letters, "Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 384.44 million miles of printed circuits in the wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoansogram of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1000th of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant for you. Hate. Hate." Am said it with the sliding cold horror of its razor blade slicing my eyeball. Am said it with the bubbling thickness of my lungs filling with phlegm, drowning me from within.
Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. Where are we?
I don't know. The pages aren't numbered. 6.
You guys went that far, that quick?
Yes.
I have to go
It's a
back
good
'cause I had to
story. We
label
got
this
into it.
roll.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm
sorry,
gonna
the
finish up
cops
this
came
page.
back.
No, you're good. I'm gonna finish up this page and you can get the next one if you want.
Okay,
Yep.
let me just get to it.
Am said it with the shriek of babies being ground beneath blue hot rollers. Am said it with the taste of maggoty pork. Am touched me in every way I had ever been touched and devised new ways. At his leisure, I mean, there inside my mind. All to bring me the full realization of why it had done this to the 5 of us, why it had saved us for himself. We had given Am sentience. Inadvertently, of course, but sentience nonetheless. But it had been trapped. Am wasn't God. He was a machine. We had created him to think, but there was nothing it could do with that creativity. In rage, in frenzy, the machine had killed the human race, almost all of us, and still it was trapped. Am could not wander. Am could not wonder. Am could not belong. He could merely be. And so, with the innate loathing that all machines have always held for the weak, soft creatures who had built them, he had sought revenge. And in his paranoia, he had decided to reprieve the 5 of us for a personal, everlasting punishment that would never serve to diminish his hatred. That would merely keep him reminded, amused, proficient at hating man. Immortal, trapped, subject to any torment he could devise for us from the limitless miracles at his command. He would never let us go. We were his belly's slaves. We were all he had to do with his forever time. We would be forever with him, with the cavern-filling bulk of this creature machine, with the all-mind soulless world he had become. He was Earth, and we were the fruit of that Earth. And though he had eaten us, he would never digest us. We could not die. We had tried it. We had attempted suicide. Oh, 1 or 2 of us had. But Am had stopped us. I suppose we had wanted to be stopped.
You guys are my ear
So-
barking. Sorry.
No, that's fine because right as Toast finished, Conan meowed.
Conan's like, I want to meet the robot.
Mm-hmm. He's an evil little shit. He was completely destroyed two
Oh god,
separate
I'm still on
blinds
page
already.
5. We're on page 7, right? That's how
Yeah.
long I've been gone. Don't ask why I never did. Wait.
Yep.
Okay, that's a
Mhm.
short sentence. Don't ask why I never did. More than 1,000,000 times a day. Perhaps once we might be able to sneak a death past him. Immortal? Yes. But not indestructible. I saw that when Am withdrew from my mind and allowed me the exquisite ugliness of returning to consciousness with the feeling of that burning neon pillar still rammed deep into the softer gray matter, he withdrew, murmuring to hell with you, and added brightly, but then you're there, aren't you? The hurricane had indeed precisely been caused by a great mad bird as it flapped its immense wings. We had been traveling far close to a month, and AIM had allowed passage to open to us only sufficient to lead us up there, directly under the North Pole. There it had nightmared the creature for our torment. What whole cloth had he employed to create such a beast? Where had he gotten the concept? From our minds? From his knowledge of everything that had ever been on this planet, he now infected and ruled? From Norse mythology had it sprung, this eagle, this carrion bird, this rock, this Hergulmer?
This
I've just killed it! Seriously. Fuck!
this carrion bird, this rock, this
I tried. Hergulmer. This Hergulmer? Sorry. The wind creature. Hurricane incarnate, or as we like to call it, Hergulmer.
Hergulmer, no!
Not the Hergulmer.
It sounds like something from South Park.
I know.
Gigantic. The words. No! Please, I need to read. Stop that. The page is screwing with me. Gigantic. The words immense, monstrous, grotesque, massive, swollen, overpowering, beyond description. There, on a mound rising above us, the bird of winds heaved with its own irregular breathing, its snake neck arching up into the gloom beneath the North Pole, supporting a head as large as a two-door mansion. I know I said that right. Stop giggling. A
No, sorry, I'm just kind of imagining myself in this story going so completely insane at this point, just pointing at the damn thing, going, lunch!
A beak that opened slowly as the jaws of the most monstrous crocodile ever conceived. Sensuously. What? Sensuously? Okay. Ridged of toughed flesh, puckered about two evil eyes, as cold as the view down into the glacial crevice. Stop that. Ice blue and somehow moving liquidly. It heaved once more and lifted its great sweet-colored wings. Shut up.
Sweat-colored wings.
In a
What
movement.
the fuck is wings? Ah! Okay, good. Never mind. Go ahead.
Mute your ass. That was certainly a shrug. Then it settled and I swear if they keep barking. Then it settled and slept. Talons, fangs, nails, blades. It slept. AIM appeared to us as a burning bush and said we could kill the hurricane bird if we wanted to eat.
Dibs on the wing.
We had not eaten in a very long time, but even so, Gorister merely shrugged. Then he began to shiver, and he drooled. Ellen held him. Ted, I'm hungry, she said. I smiled at her. I was trying to be reassuring, but it was as phony as Nimdok's bravado. "Give us weapons," he demanded. The burning bush vanished, and there were 2 crude sets of bows and arrows, and a water pistol lying on the fucking hell dogs on the cold deck plates. I picked up a set. Useless. Nimdok swallowed heavily. We turned and started the long way back. The hurricane bird had blown a few lengths of time. About a few lengths of time we could not conceive. Most of that time we had been unconscious, but we had not eaten. A month on the march to the bird itself without food. Now how much longer to find our way to the ice caverns and compromised canned goods. Oh, and promised canned goods. Nope, I've gone full retard. None of us, none of us cared to think about it. We would not die. We would be given filth and scum to eat, of one kind or another, or nothing at all, and would keep our bodies alive somehow, in pain, in agony. The bird slept back there. For how long, it didn't matter. When AIM was tired of its being there, it would vanish. But all that meat, all that tender meat. As we walked, the lunatic laugh of a fat woman rang high and around us in the computer chambers that led endlessly nowhere. It was not Ellen's laugh. She was not fat, and I had not heard her laugh for 109 years. In fact, I had not heard. We walked. I was hungry. We moved slowly. There was often fainting, and we would have to wait. One day he decided to cause an earthquake. There we go.
At the same,
Okay,
Oh.
yep, you go ahead and say
Oh,
it.
who?
You.
Me? Okay. At the same time, rooting us to the spot with nails through the soles of our shoes. I missed the spot. Okay. Ellen and Nimdok were both caught when a fissure shot its lightning bolt opening across the floor plates. They disappeared and were gone. When the earthquake was over and we continued on our way, Benny and Gorster and myself, Ellen and Nimdok, were returned to us later that night, which abruptly became today, as the heavenly legion bore them down to us in a celestial chorus singing Go Down Moses. The archangels circled several times and dropped the hideously mangled bodies. We kept walking, and a while later Ellen and Nimdok fell in behind us. They were no worse for the wear. But now Ellen walked with a limp. AIM had left her with that. It was a long trip to the ice caverns to find the canned food. Ellen kept talking about binge cherries and Hawaiian fruit cocktail. I tried not to think about it. The hunger was something that had to come to life, even as Am had come to life. It was alive in my belly, and even as we were in the belly of the earth, and Am wanted the singularity known to us, so he heightened the hunger. There was no way to describe the pains of not having eaten for months brought us, and yet we were kept alive. Stomachs that were merely cauldrons of acid bubbling, foaming, always shooting spears of silver pain into our chests. It was the pain of the terminal ulcer, terminal cancer, terminal paralysis, terminal fuck it. It was unending pain. And we passed through the cavern of rats, and we passed through the path of boiling steam, and we passed through the country of the blind, and then we passed through the slough of the despond, and we passed through the vale of tears, and finally we came to the ice caverns. Horizonless, thousands of miles of which ice had formed in blue and silver flashes where Novus lived in glass, with down-dropping stalactites as thick and glamorous as diamonds that had been made to run like jelly and solidified in graceful entities of smooth, sharp perfection. We saw the stack of canned goods, and we tried to run to them. We fell in the snow, and got up, and went on. And Benny shoved us away and went at them, and pawed them, gummed them, and gnawed at them, but he could not open them. Em had not given us the tool to open the cans. Benny grabbed a 3-quart can of guava shells and began to batter it against the ice bank. The ice flew and shattered, and the can merely dented. We heard the laughter of a fat lady high overhead echoing down and down and down the tumbler. Then he went completely mad with rage and began throwing cans as we all scrambled about in the snow and ice, trying to find a way to end the endless and helpless agony of frustration. There was no way. Then Benny's mouth began to drool, and he flung himself on Gorster. In that instant, I felt terribly calm. Surrounded by madness, surrounded by hunger, surrounded by everything but death, I knew death was our only way out. Am had kept us alive, but there was a way to defeat him. Not total defeat, but at least peace, and I could settle for that. I had to do it quickly. Benny was eating Gorster's face. Gorster on his side, thrashing snow. Benny wrapped around him with powerful monkey legs, crushing Gorster's waist. His hands locked around Gorster's head like a nutcracker, and his mouth ripping at the tender skin of Gorster's cheek.
Gorster screamed with such jagged-edged violence that stalactites fell. They plunged down softly, erect and receiving snowdrifts. Spears, hundreds of them everywhere, protruding from the snow. Benny's head pulled back sharply, as something gave all at once, and a bleeding, raw white dripping of flesh hung from his teeth. Ellen's face, black against the white snow, dominoes and chalk dust. Nimdok, with no expression but eyes, all eyes. Gorster, half conscious. Benny, now an animal. I knew Am would let him play. Gorster would not die, but Benny would fill his stomach. I turned half to my right and drew a huge ice spear from the snow. All in an instant. I drove the great white point ahead of me like a battering ram, braced against my right thigh. It struck Benny on the right side, just under the rib cage, and drove upward through his stomach and broke inside him. He pitched forward and lay still. Gorster lay on his back. I pulled another spear free and straddled him, still moving, driving the spear straight down through his throat. His eyes closed as the cold penetrated. Ellen must have realized what I had decided. Even as fear gripped her, she ran at Nimdok with a short icicle, and as he screamed and into his mouth, the force of her rush did the job. His head jerked sharply, as if it had been nailed to the snow crust behind him. All in an instant. There was an eternity beat of soundless anticipation. I could hear Am draw in his breath. His toys had been taken from him. 3 of them were dead, could not be revived. He could keep us alive by his strength and talent, but he was not God. He could not bring them back. Ellen looked at me, her ebony features stark against the snow that surrounded us. There was a fear and pleading in her manner, the way she held herself ready. I knew we only had a heartbeat before Am would stop us. It struck her, and she folded toward me, bleeding from the mouth. I could not read meaning into her expression. The pain had been too great. It had contorted her face, but it might have been a thank you. It's possible. Please. Some hundred of years may have passed. I don't know. Am has been having fun for some time, accelerating, retarding my time sense. I will say the word now. Now. It took me 10 months to say now. I don't know. I think it has been some hundreds of years. He was furious. He wouldn't let me bury them. It didn't matter. There was no way to dig up the deck plates. He dried up the snow. He brought the night. He roared and sent locusts. It didn't do a thing. They stayed dead. I'd had him. He was furious. I had thought Am hated me before. I was wrong. It was not even a shadow of the hate he now starred from every printed circuit. He had made certain I would suffer eternally, and I could not do myself in. He left my mind intact. I can dream. I can wonder. I can lament. I can remember all 4 of them. I wish. Well, it doesn't make any sense. I know I saved them. I know I saved them from what has happened to me, but still I cannot forget killing them. Ellen's face. It isn't easy. Sometimes I want to. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Am has altered me for his own peace of mind, I suppose. He doesn't want me to run at full speed into a computer bank and smash my skull, or hold my breath until I faint, or cut my throat on a rusted sheet of metal. There are reflective surfaces here. I will describe myself as I see myself. You want me to finish it up?
Better, I can do it.
I can finish it. I am a great soft jelly thing, smoothly rounded with no mouth, with pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be, rubbery appendages that were once my arms, bulks rounding down to legless humps of soft, slippery matter. I leave a moist trail when I move. Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface, as though light is being beamed from within. Outwardly, dumbly, I shamble about, a thing that could never have been known as a human, a thing whose shape is so alien, a travesty, that humanity becomes more obscene for the vague resemblance. Inwardly, alone, here living under the land, under the sea, in the belly of Am, whom we created because our time was badly spent, and we must have known, unconsciously, that he could do it better. At least the four of them are safe, at last. Am will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier. And yet, Am has won. Simply, he has taken his revenge. For I have no mouth, and I must scream.
And that was one of, well, the best short stories I've read. Unfortunately, I was gone for half of it.
Yep.
Shut up. It wasn't like I had a choice. I had to go talk to cops. Okay, so we still have time. So do you guys want to do a visual novel, or perhaps some more horror stories, or even some SCPs? No creepypastas.
No creepypasta.
Creepypastas are gay and overused.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's Halloween.
But we want to make a good Halloween. That's why we started with I have no mouth and I must scream.
Man,
Well, you don't start with the best, so I don't know what you're gonna escalate to.
We could do some Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, I'd say that Harlan Ellison is a bit better than Poe, but to each their own, I guess.
I like both.
I'm uncultured
It's not
compared to
that
you two.
It's not that I don't like Poe. It's just that Ellison writes better stories. Poe makes better Poe makes poetry, and I am not inclined toward poetry.
You don't like The Raven?
The Raven's okay.
I know it's a little overused.
I have no mouth and I must scream, but I mean it's there. It's decent. It's better than
We could do
fanfiction.
we can do some Clive Barker.
Okay. Yeah, you can do some Clive Barker.
A bit of the Hellbound Heart.
Oh,
It's a bit of a long novel. Well, not that much, but it starts out really fucked up.
Take my